Okay, so the recording has started. I'll hand over to the Chair, Councillor Anna Abella.
Thank you, Naz. Good evening, everyone. My name is Councillor Anna Abella. I am the Chair of the Licensing Subcommittee, and we're going to kick off today's meeting by asking everyone to introduce themselves. So we'll start off with Councillor Small.
Evening, everybody. I am Councillor Small, representing Hornsey Ward in Harringay.
Thank you, Adam, and Councillor Da Costa.
Councillor Nick Da Costa, member for Highgate Ward.
Thank you. Could the legal advisor introduce himself, please?
Robin Levitt, legal advisor.
Thank you. And could the licensing team leader please introduce herself?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dale Barrett, licensing team leader.
Thank you. Could the clerk introduce himself?
Yeah, I'm Nazir Chowdhury. I'm clerk to this subcommittee and democratic assistant.
Thank you. We should have the applicant or a representative of the applicant for Slim Chickens on the call. Is that you, Mr. Tomlinson?
That is me, yes, thank you. My client has just messaged me saying he believes he's in the waiting room, although I can't see that anyone is waiting at the moment. Is that right? No, but so bear with me just 2 seconds. I'll resend him the invitation. Just so you know, I'm also joined by Paige, who's one of my colleagues here. She won't be speaking. It's just more sort of an introduction as to how this sort of process works, which I hope is okay for everyone here. Bear with me 2 seconds just while I get him resend him the invitation.
That's okay for us. We'll pause for a couple of minutes until your client joins us. Yes, I see Richard Piggott. Is that
yes,
your
that's
client?
Richard. Yes, thank you. Yes, Richard is the ops director for Slim's Chicken, so also part of the applicant.
Excellent. Mr. Piggott, would you like to very briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name's Richard Piggott. I'm ops director of Bar and Restaurant Group. Look after Slim Chicken, 8 other brands across the estate.
Thank you. We also heard from objectors in advance of today's meeting, but I don't think they are on the call. Please do raise your hand if you're an objector on the call and I'm not seeing you. I think they're not here. So we'll move on with the agenda. So first of all, I need to remind you that this meeting is being recorded and will be available for public viewing. Clark, are there any apologies for absence?
No apologies for absence, Chair. Oh, sorry, my mistake. There is one apology for absence. Apologies have been received from Councillor Mokbule Guinness and Councillor Adam Small is substituting.
Thank you, Naz. There are no items of urgent business in this meeting. Do the members have any declarations of interest?
No.
No. In that case, I'll move on to the summary of the procedure. The procedure for this meeting has been emailed to all participants by the clerk. For the purposes of any members of the public watching, we will first hear from the licensing officer. After that, the applicant will present their case, the objectors and the subcommittee will have the opportunity to ask questions. Then the objectors will present their representation and the subcommittee and the applicant will have the opportunity to ask questions. All parties will then have the opportunity to sum up, and then the meeting will conclude to allow the subcommittee to deliberate and reach a decision. This decision will then be provided in writing within 5 working days of this meeting. A few housekeeping rules. If you wish to speak, please raise your virtual hand and direct all communication via the chair. We will take all the papers that were circulated ahead of this meeting as read, unless there's anything you wish to draw our attention to. All speakers will be allocated 5 minutes to speak. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allocated time, unless you request an extension of time, which is at the discretion of the chair. Please do not share addresses of any of the speakers on the call, and in the event that there are several speakers for a particular party, please avoid repetition and perhaps consider nominating a spokesperson to address all concerns. So the first item on our agenda was an application for a new premises license at Smoky Lounge. I understand this application has been withdrawn from the agenda. Ms. Barrett, could you give us some background on this?
Thank you, Chair. I received communication on Friday, I believe it was, from the agent representing Smoky Lounge, asking for the matter to be postponed. He was giving notice that his client had to leave the UK for a short period of time. So hopefully we'll be able to reschedule that for the 3rd of February.
Thank you. So we'll reconvene on that on the 3rd of February. The next item on the agenda is an application for a new premises license at Slim Chickens in Noel Park. Ms. Barrett, please can you introduce your report?
Thank you, Chair. As you said, Chair, the application is for Slim Chickens at 113 High Road, London N22. The application is submitted by Saheb Ahmadi and seeks the activities for regulated entertainment and recorded music Monday to Sunday, 9 to 11. Late night refreshment Monday to Sunday, 11 p.m. until 23:30. And sale of alcohol 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. with the alcohol being for both on and off the premises. And they've also asked for New Year's Day hours there also, Chair. Representations have been received, and they have been from 2 local residents, in fact. The applicants, via their solicitors, Popperston Allen, did engage with the residents and sent out a mediation letter. And as a result of that, one resident did in fact come back to say that they wanted to withdraw their representation, hence the reason you now have just the one representation in there. We have, in fact, every 2 days, try to engage with the remaining resident that made representation, but it was not to be. We weren't able to get any contact back from them at all. Sorry, Chair, I think I've overtyped something there at 1.1. So the application is, in fact, under Gourmet Burger Kitchen UK Limited. Sorry, my error there. Chair, in terms of recommendations, in considering this application, the panel may decide to grant the application as requested, grant the application whilst imposing additional conditions and or altering in any way the proposed operating schedule, exclude any licensable activities to which the application relates, or reject the whole or part of the application. Members are aware that they will need to give clear reasons for whatever decision is made. The premises is located in a terrace of shops with residential above, and there was a previous license issued to Itsu, the previous operators, but this was surrendered in April of last year. You've got the parts of the relevant parts of the licensing policy there at section 3, Chair, and at 4. And Chair, just to take you through to page 143, so that we do highlight it, because it seems like the resident is not on the call. So they have written in to say that that they've experienced some antisocial behaviour involving alcohol and drugs, and as a neighbourhood they say that we try hard to support each other, and that the idea of late night drinking place at the end of their road is a scary thought, and they wish to therefore notify of their objections. They go on to say that historically they've had people with problem drinking hanging around the corner of their road and also urinating in the area, and they find this also intimidating for residents. Chair, I'm sure you'll be aware, but obviously we've got the other considerations, which would be section 17 of the Crime and Disorder Act 1998. That's as set out at section 7. The Human Rights Act also, Chair, and you have the full application from page 117 of the report, and also a plan of the premises at page 139 of the report, Chair. And Chair, there I can end. If you have any further questions, please.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. I don't have any questions. That was all very clear to me. Councillor Small, Councillor Da Costa, any questions?
No questions.
No. So we will now hear from the applicant. Mr. Tomlinson, will you be speaking on behalf of the applicant?
I will be doing so, yes. Thank you, Chair.
Excellent. You have 5 minutes to make your representation.
Thank you, Chair. I look really to keep this sort of short and sweet, hopefully. As Dolly has explained, this is a new premises licence application for Slim Chickens. Slim Chickens is part of the wider Baparan Group. They own other sort of operations or brands such as Carluccio's, Gourmet Burger Kitchen and Ed's Easy Diner. They currently own about 30 Slim Chickens across the UK. All of them are trading well. All of them trade currently with the permission to sell alcohol. They have taken on the lease of this new site and it is open. It is currently trading, has been doing so since the 1st of December and has been doing so without any issues, of course, without the current permission of selling the alcohol. Just to give some history of the site and the context, again, it was previously licensed. The previous operator, Itsu, unfortunately surrendered the license when they should have actually transferred the license to us. So we're very much looking to sort of fix that issue or sort of replicate that previous license. We've applied for the exact same hours. We've applied for the exact same conditions as that previous license. Just to give you sort of an operational style of Slim Chickens, it is again like sort of fast food, sort of a premium brand of that, and very much based around sort of American style fried chicken. It does sell alcohol. It has a very limited offering. It really only sells bottled beer. Of those sales of the whole company, it really only amounts to less than 5%. But that 5% is important, as I'm sure you can understand that 5% makes a massive difference in businesses and can make a difference as to whether the success or failure of Slim Chickens in this area. And realistically, as you've seen in the conditions, these bottles of beer or the alcohol has to be ancillary to food. So you have to go into the premises and you have to take a meal with you. You cannot simply walk in and buy bottled beer. At the moment, as I say, it's been open and trading. There have been no issues. We've not been notified of anyone in the locality of having any issues, and we're happy to again continue to liaise with the local community if they deem that there is any issues. Unfortunately, we've not been able to have any correspondence with the remaining objector, but we did reach out to one of the objectors and they were happy with the offering, and it was very nice to see that, and they wished us well, and we wish them the best and hopefully for them to come in the future. In short, we believe the hours, the style, the conditions offered are adequate for this sort of style and nature of the premises. We would ask that you grant the application as applied for. We, of course, are more than happy to answer any questions should you have any. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. I have a couple of questions and then I'll open the floor to my colleagues. The first is, I understand the applicant is Gourmet Burger Kitchen Limited. Could you tell us a bit about this business? Does it own multiple restaurants across the UK? Approximately how many restaurants does the company own?
Yeah, so Gourmet Burger Kitchen is the premises license holder. That is the overall arch company for lots of subsidiary sort of businesses. Again, they own Gourmet Burger Kitchen, they own Carluccio's, Ed's Easy Diners, which are sort of some of the more known brands, also Slim Chickens, and they operate multiple sites across the UK. I think Richard would probably be best placed to tell you how many sites they have in total. As I say, I know Slim Chickens has about 30. Richard, how many have you got in total across the entirety of the estate?
So, Slims with our franchise partners currently stand at 62 sites across the UK. We also operate 120 restaurants across our group in the UK, and then we've got 40, 50 sites across the world then as well. So we operate about 170 sites altogether.
You touched upon my second question in your representation. Can I just confirm bottled beer is the only kind of alcohol you plan to sell?
That is currently at this site, yes. Now there is across the estate, sometimes it switches to cans, not to restrict it, but yeah, it's a very limited offering. We don't do draft. There is no sort of wine or anything along those lines. It is just bottles of beer, which is a very small, reduced menu for the Slim Chickens. That is.
Mm-hmm. And you, in your in the emails that you shared with local residents, you mentioned a series of conditions that you have offered in the application, that anyone who leaves the premises will not be permitted to take alcohol with them unless the customers are seated in the small external area in front of the premises. Consumption of alcohol on the premises will only be to a person seated taking a meal there. And for consumption ancillary to their meal, and sales of alcohol for consumption of the premises shall be in sealed containers only and supplied ancillary to their meal. Is your plan to continue to abide by these conditions?
Of course, absolutely, wholeheartedly. Yeah, as I say, it's a small part of the actual business, but yeah, any alcohol sales will be ancillary to a meal, and obviously some of the takeaway meals will be, potential for there to be sealed containers for people to have those to take away. But yeah, absolutely, wholeheartedly, those conditions will be adhered to.
Thank you. Councillor Small, Councillor Da Costa, do you have any questions for Mr. Tomlinson? Councillor Small.
Just the one question about the request for extended hours on New Year's Eve into New Year's Day. As I understand it, you're looking to stay open right through the night into the early hours of the morning. If there are usual or any additional measures you plan to put in place on New Year's Eve through the night to prevent any disturbances to residents in the early hours. I appreciate New Year's Eve is a bit of a law unto itself, but I think even most reasonable human beings still have a cut-off limit at some point in the early hours.
No, of course, and thank you for the question. It's not that wording is very typical across sort of the licensing regime. It's not to say that Slim Chickens is going to operate straight through the night. It's likely that it won't. It's just to be able to give them the commercial flexibility to say possibly they're open till 1, possibly 1:30, maybe even 2. Of course, with those sort of event days, big occasions, they're each risk assessed with management on site and the ops level as well. So of course, there'll be measures put in place to make sure that there's no noise disturbance or any issues in that locality. But yeah, that wording is just the traditional licensing regime to across the board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Small. So normally at this stage, we would ask the objector if they had any questions, and we would ask the objector to make representations. But they have not attended. Ms. Barrett, do you want to come in?
Sorry, Chair, can I just ask Alex, please, for some clarification, please? He just mentioned about customers being able to consume alcohol at the front. Was he meaning within the premises, or is the intention that there's going to be an application for an outside space, a pavement license or something?
There will be. So I don't know if you've seen, Dahlia, on the plan that there is an external area to the front. And if obviously this is granted, then we will be applying for a tables and chairs license out the front as well to make sure that obviously subject to that permission being granted as well.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. That was a helpful point to clarify. So as I said, since the objector has not presented themselves to the meeting, we will move to concluding remarks. Mr. Tomlinson, could you kindly conclude?
Thank you. Yeah, as I say, very short and sweet. We'd just like the application to be granted as applied for. Again, we think the measures are proportionate and adequate for the style of operation. Again, we really appreciate your time. There was historically a licence here, and we hope you grant this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. The committee will now deliberate on our decision, and this will be provided to you within 5 working days of this meeting. So thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. Thank you, Mr. Pigott. The committee members will now convene and we will take our decision. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good evening, all.
That was short and sweet.